Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson, thank you for making us part of your day. Ben, I'm across the table from you because our wonderful IT department is in the studio doing engineering department. Oh, sorry. Apologies. I know that's extremely offensive. But doing the Lord's work today, getting my computer back online. Appreciate you. Wanted to give a shout out. But it is weird being this far away from you, Ben.
Yeah, what are you doing over there?
I don't know, but
I'm further away than when you were in Nashville.
I'm right in front of Armpit.
Yeah, you are.
Right in front of him. Anyway, yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah, you too, kind of. Wherever you are. Should have worn my glasses.
What's happening? Just want to start the show by giving the Utah Jazz a shout out for yesterday at Media Day. And man, was it a big show, Ben. I was riding high all day. I don't know about you. I really asked some dog questions, but I really feel like our guests totally bailed us out, and we had a pretty great show. That was really fun.
It's the first time we've had Will Hardy or Justin Zanuck on the show. I think we may have talked to Keontae last year briefly, but honestly, I can't remember if that was just like pre or post-draft when we did our draft show and he had been selected and we got to talk to him because we certainly did.
Yeah.
Really fun. No, really enjoyable. And look, I thought there was a lot of transparency. I thought Will was great. I thought Justin was great. And, I mean, fun to talk to Johnny Juzang coming off of a great summer for him. I thought it was really enjoyable.
I made up for my fist bump faux pas with Johnny, which that was nice of him.
And he played along.
He did play along.
Yeah, it was nice.
My favorite part, and you can get all of this in podcast form, by the way, kslsports.com. You can listen to all of our interviews, all of Media Day. Our coverage was there, very thorough, and we were very much there. Yes, we were a radio station who was very much present and broadcasting on the radio.
Yeah.
And Ben, last time I checked, you're a radio host.
That's my job.
I know you do write for KSLSports.com.
Correct.
But you are indeed, and I'm looking right at you.
You are.
You are 100% present.
Yes, I'm here. And was there.
And on the radio, broadcasting currently.
Yes.
And you do this for a living?
That's my job.
Every day?
Every day.
On this radio show, I know you are, Christian. Most people are lost. It's okay.
Yeah.
We'll move on. Can I tell you what my can I tell you what my favorite part of the day was, though? Is when we asked Will Hardy to grade Ben. Because he gave Ben an A-, but then the best part was he went in through, and this is Will Hardy's post games. He went through a thorough explanation of why Ben got an A-. It was awesome. It was basically, he asked great questions, but we all don't. None of us are 100%.
No one bats 1,000.
No one bats 1,000. It's like, wow, you know what? You really thought about that, and gave Ben a tremendous grade.
It's probably the longest I've sat and talked to Will in that type of environment.
And I thought that was pretty cool, given that you do have to sit in front of that man and ask him questions pert near every day for most of the year.
Yeah, he deals with a lot of Ben.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Yeah.
And you know what? He gets some randoms from around the country. You know, some random drop-ins for some. I miss Maxime Legorgis.
Uh-huh.
He was my favorite of all time.
He was a French person who covered the Jazz during the pandemic because Rudy Gobert was such a big story.
And he was incredible.
He was pretty amazing. Rudy.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was always good because everything was done via Zoom, so you could tune in from anywhere.
Which I actually thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But they got some South American reporters too, right? But yeah, he fields a lot. And to give it some thought, Ben, and gave you an A-. I thought that was pretty cool. I did put you on the spot though with that.
It's fine.
Were you mad?
No, I don't care.
I didn't think you would. That's why I asked the question. And you know what? Like sometimes press conferences are. We were talking about this off the air. Sometimes press conferences are so impersonal because they're not supposed to be personal. You know what I mean? But the long form radio interview podcast, for those of you who are podcasting, where you can sit down, or you could do it over the phone to make the connection, but it certainly is much easier in person. And you can, it's different than a press conference. It's much more conversational, and some athletes and coaches still treat it as a press conference. And I guess I don't blame them, like, public speaking is not everybody's thing, and a lot of coaches and players are extraordinarily paranoid.
Yep.
So I understand. But I thought, like, Coach Hardy and Justin Zanuck and all the players showed a little personality. I was stoked to find out that Keontae was a football fan.
Yeah.
We spent the last, 3-4 minutes of our interview with him just talking about football.
Yeah, things you don't get an opportunity to build on a narrative or build into a conversation. You're right. One of the things I like about radio and radio interviews is there's actually kind of an equality of skin in the game. For, like, if I'm in a press conference and I ask a question, I talk for 5 seconds. And then I'm out.
That's not true for everybody, Ben, but yeah.
But for me, I try and keep my questions to under 10. Hey, would you see what happened? Or what is this about? Or what did you think?
Can I tell you we're all grateful for that?
I try. There are some 40-second, 2.5-minute question askers.
There's some real burners.
And I'm not pointing to anyone specifically. I'm just saying it tends to happen. But then I'm done. And then it's all on the other person to have to answer this long question and try and, recognize that I'm asking the question for a reason. They're trying to satisfy the reason I'm asking the question. But also they may be trying to talk around something. But it's very easy for me to ask a 5-second question and get out of the way. Radio, there is a little bit more of like, hey, you can respond to me immediately and you can ask me what I thought. And then I have to give it back. So I like that part of it. It's a little bit more equal footing that I think is actually beneficial for the person being interviewed.
I agree. And yeah, you can ask some really windy questions. I certainly do on the radio. But yeah, in press conferences, it is a little bit different where you really should get to the point. And I actually try to get to the point when it's necessary. But with radio, context is a thing. And anywho, long story short, big thanks to everybody over there at the Jazz for letting this, not only the station be there, but our show be there and DJ and PK be there. And it was cool. It was a good day.
I honestly had a lot of fun. That was the most enjoyable media day I've been at in quite a while.
And I was a little concerned because we're going to get to a lot of college football today, but yesterday was a big college football day, and of course, Jazz Media Day. Media days. We're gonna do the Jazz. I was a little bit concerned about that, and you know what? Yesterday's show was, I thought, Ben, just an absolute home run, and we'll make up with it today for the college football crowd up there. But that was certainly worth really talking Jazz the whole show.
Again, as you mentioned, if you missed it, you can go check out a lot of the interviews, KSLSports.com.
What was the number one
interview?
Yeah.
I always like talking to the coaches and the general manager.
I know.
Just because it's a little rarer to get to sit down with those guys for 10 or 15 minutes. And they have this different perspective. So I like talking to Will about the difference in his job going into year 3. Year 1 was not a honeymoon. That's probably unfair, but it was new and it was exciting. Year 2 had all these expectations and it fell apart really quickly with some injuries. And then year 3, I think, is a totally different animal. So I thought hearing his perspective on that was pretty interesting. I just like Justin Zanuck a lot. And that's not to say I don't like Will Hardy a lot. Justin is in a little bit different stage of his career. And was pretty relaxed and really enjoyable to talk to.
Justin's very easy to talk to, approachable, easy to talk to, and not that Will's not. Again, it is not holding one over the other, but yeah, he's a guy you'd run into at the watching a college football game at the Chili's bar.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
And you could go like, "Hey, who are you pulling for in this one?" And he'd tell you, and then you could just have that chat.
They're both very smart.
They are.
They're both really well-educated and just naturally smart on
It's
top
impossible to pick between the head coach and the general manager. And the players were really good, too. You know what was great about Justin and Will? They were both really generous with their time.
They did.
Because things are kind of, you're going from station to station to station or whatever. timing that thing out, and they were both really well. I guess Justin was hanging out, right? Because he did his thing on Friday. He told us, or we knew he did his thing on Friday, but he told us he was just hanging out.
Yeah, he didn't have anywhere to be, apparently. So
which was good for us.
Yeah, it was great for us.
Throw a headset on that guy.
Yep.
It's only the general manager of the Jazz. So yeah, super cool. Download anything you missed. I thought it was really great.
And we had a lot of stories at KSLSports.com too. So you can, if you don't want to listen, you don't have time, read something on your lunch break.
Yeah, we covered the heck out of that thing. I know after the show, we hung out for a little bit, and then you grabbed a sandwich and just went right up to Wrighton. How's the carpal tunnel? You sore?
I was writing last night to the point where I forgot to do the power poll. So I just did that. I had to come in early to do that. But it's done. It's ready to go.
So we'll get to the Big 12 power poll. I'm going to call it the Big Pac power poll. The Pac is something else.
It's totally different today.
Which now includes Gonzaga, apparently.
It's new this morning.
They still have to get to 2 football schools. I mean, not to get too sidetracked, and I want to talk about the games over the weekend, but where are they going to go there?
Well, they missed on UTEP, apparently, who's joining the Mountain West Conference. And I didn't realize UTEP has been so inept on the football front. They hadn't made a bowl game since 2001. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
I saw
rough.
that. It's a long time. I swear I had to have read that wrong. But, I mean, they're 0-4 this year. Good time to be joining a conference.
Don't count out Gloria, Ben.
Well,
Savvy.
Thought it was going to be Texas State, right? Wasn't that the rumor last week? And it sounds like they're still maybe in talks there. But, yeah, Gonzaga joining as a as a non-football only member. So all their other sports will join up to the Pac-12, but obviously they don't have a football team. So, yes, they still need to add a football team to get up to 8 full-time members. So we'll see where they go with that.
How funny would it be to add Nevada instead of UNLV?
Yeah, right. Jump over them.
Just go with the Wolfpack over here. Still do damage to the Mountain West or what's left.
Good thing BYU's not in the WCC anymore.
Oh, yeah, well. I never liked the WCC to begin with.
I didn't like the half independent, half WCC combination. And look at what BYU's doing in the Big 12 right now. They're playing, in my opinion, as well as anybody.
I mean, the fact that BYU was in the WCC is one of the great conference expansion stories that no one ever talks about. And as usual, is a huge story that happens while I'm on vacation.
Oh, did it? Oh, are you talking about yesterday or
no,
when that originally
one
happened?
One of the great stories. No, that and PK will tell you all about this because he was reporting on it and doing all that back when he worked for the Watchdog, as he puts it. But so BYU was going independent, and they had a deal with Carl Benson's WAC to put BYU in the WAC. And at that time, Boise State was still there. And who else was? Utah State was still there. Anyway, the WAC was a thing, or certainly more than it is now. No offense to SUU. Which, by the way, Christian, I did see an SUU shirt on my vacation, so that's pretty funny. But
in Nashville?
In Nashville, yeah. No kidding.
Go T-Birds.
But Craig Thompson got wind of it.
Uh-huh.
And now the rumor of the rumor, which is not confirmed, is that Utah got wind of it and told Craig Thompson. So what did Craig do, Ben? He turned around and he took all those teams from the WAC. And the next day, the WAC's like, Carl Benson's like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
My whole league just left? Everybody's gone.
Gone.
Everybody's gone, and BYU was left holding the bag. They didn't have a league to go to, and so they called the church conference.
And it worked out temporarily.
But, I mean, it's so funny. Conference reaffiliation, realignment, has been a banana story for decades now. We act like this is all new. Like
it's every off season, and a lot of times in season. This is constantly changing. It's in flux. Doesn't make it less jarring, but it is constant now.
I just, you know how we talk about we just need to retire the tribute videos in the NBA? Like, it's just gone too far.
Yeah.
You know, teams are doing it for these also ran players that come back.
George
That's
Niang,
like,
yeah,
right. Like, okay, let's just put an end to the tradition. Let's just not do it anymore. The whole thing is over. You know what's over for me now? And it's been over for me for a while, but we're just so excited to be in X conference.
X conference, right. That's what it is. It's X-Conference because it's just a placeholder. It's just a variable for whatever the next conference is going to be.
We are just thrilled to finally be a part of, and part of me is like, yeah, you think it's a better destination than you were in, or else you wouldn't have done it. We know you're thrilled to be there. You would never say, like Utah would never come out and say, wow, really sucks to be in the Big 12 right now.
Wish we were still the Pac-12.
This is just the worst. Yeah, we got it. Okay, let's just move on. There's been too much moving around. The celebration statement is just unnecessary at this point. Utah, you threw a parade when you went to the Pac-12. Now this is like what, Utah's 5th league in 40 years? Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
So it's happened a lot.
Yeah.
I get BYU maybe celebrating. Remember the midnight celebration down in Provo?
Yeah.
Because Independence was really a wasteland of sport.
And it's paid off better for BYU than I think anyone expected. The speed with which BYU has succeeded in the Big 12 is much quicker than I had anticipated.
Well, let's get to the games coming up next. We'll do a little bit of an early break here so we can have a healthy top 3 stories, and we'll get thoughts on college football coming up right around the corner. It's Jake and Ben. Happy Tuesday at 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Yeah, I'm a petty guy, Christian. Is this new? Is this new to you?
No way.
I can take insult from anything.
I missed you.
And that, I think, is particularly insulting. I missed you too, pal. It's good to see both of you. All right, time for the top 3 stories of the day, KSLSports.com. Brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. 2 locations to serve you, one on Winchester Street, across from Fashion Place Mall, the other Traverse Mountain in Lehigh. All right, Christian, where are we starting today?
Number 1, is BYU the best team in the Big 12?
Well, I think we got to wait till the Big 12 Power Poll comes out. That's a little on the nose. But yeah, I think BYU has a real argument to be the best team in the Big 12 right now.
Right now, for sure.
Best first 5 weeks. I mean, they are undefeated. They're one of, 2 undefeated teams so far, along with Iowa State. But you look at their 2 road wins, a very good home win over Kansas State. BYU's far from perfect, but they're pretty complete.
Well, complete's kind of funny. I don't know if I would use the word complete to describe them. But I think they are better in a number of ways than I thought they were and have proven that out. Like, Retzlaff is not a complete quarterback. Like,
no, you saw in the second half.
Right.
He really struggled.
At times he's struggled. He's not the perfect quarterback.
But the defense is very good.
But he's good enough. I didn't know if he was going to be good enough. He's good enough. I certainly didn't know if the running game was going to be good enough, and so far it's been good enough. And ironically enough, because this was always my complaint, but Retzlaff has really helped the running game.
He has, yeah.
But it's the defense that's way better than I expected. And this team has a rock-solid defense and an offense that needs to be just good enough to win the game. I mean, it's a familiar blueprint. It really is. But it can be successful, and you're going to beat good teams. And let down in the second half, well, you still had to have a monster first half. And if the other team can't get back in the game because your defense is playing great, well, awesome. Now, it's not the perfect strategy. See the Rose Bowl against Ohio State for Utah.
Yep.
But then see the Sugar Bowl against Alabama for Utah.
Yeah, right. You get
where
win
you
your game.
Get on top of them early and you score a bunch of points. You're going to give yourself a really good chance to win.
Your only job is to win. If you can find a way to win the games, especially difficult games on the road, and difficult doesn't necessarily just mean opponent. Difficult can mean, maybe you had a bad second half. Maybe you had a couple of turnovers. Maybe things weren't clicking, and you still get a win. At the end of the season, it still says 5-0. Or at the end of the night, I should say, it still says 5-0. And that's where BYU is, and they're easily going to coast into a bowl game. And the sights are set so much higher than that now, where they're looking at winning the Big 12. Which is not a conversation I expected to have at any point for BYU this year. So they're playing that well. And when I say complete, I mean in all 3 phases, they're dangerous. The offense is good enough. The defense is great. And the special teams has been really terrific.
Well, and then Darius Lassiter is awesome.
Yeah.
So, and joined DJ and PK this morning, by the way, and not to be missed because he's really good on the radio too. But I want you to pay attention to Jake Retzlaff's attempts. 31. Maybe a little more than you would have liked, but you're also not giving him the game. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Where it's like you got to go out and and do everything yourself, or it's all coming on you. So I thought that was important, and I don't think you can say enough about BYU's start this year, especially after watching Kansas State just light up Oklahoma State.
Yep.
And Kansas State, who's beaten Arizona, and you beat that team
pretty handily.
So the Cougs are rolling, and maybe it's not. I didn't think this would succeed, this strategy. And it certainly has succeeded.
I'm still not betting on anyone to go undefeated. We can talk about that more throughout the rest of the show and really throughout the rest of the week. But, yeah, there's absolutely no reason not to just be celebrating, and to be thrilled to be a BYU fan. And, look, you go into this bye week, you come back ideally healthy, you host Arizona, who's not coming off a bye week. You should beat them. You home against Oklahoma State, who's not very good, at Central Florida, who looks beatable. I mean, you are set up potentially for an undefeated BYU team coming off a bye week going into Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Awesome.
It's going to be one of the best games we've seen in that rivalry in a very long time.
Well, I don't know about that. We've seen some good games, but I get your
But
point.
as far as the build-up,
yeah.
the excitement for that game is going to be as high as it's been in a really long time.
So let's hope. I hope that happens. That'd
Yep.
be great for everybody. And we'll get to the Utes in a moment, but it appears that BYU is really put together a strategy and a team that can win some ball games in the Big 12. And I'm with you. I'm optimistic for the Cougs going through this stretch that is going to be difficult. I don't know if it's quite, Oklahoma State isn't a thing. I mean, they're going to have to go out and win. It's still difficult, I think, but who doesn't like their chances to certainly win more than they lose in that stretch?
And if Sione Moa is healthy, if LJ Martin's healthy coming off this bye week, and I have no idea, but we'll see what their injuries are. Connor Pay's healthy. If you can get there and you come back a better team, a more complete team, with a little bit of rest and recognizing exactly what made you successful to get to 5-0 and what you can still work on, it could be the highest highs could still be ahead of BYU this season.
All right, number 2.
Number 2, Utah struggled at home in their loss to Arizona.
We're talking about blueprints. Utah totally has blueprints for how they lose games.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
That
was such a familiar loss for Utah fans.
It's like, how do you punch yourself in the groin repeatedly and then try to keep yourself in it? Try to win while simultaneously damaging yourself. And they're so bad. We've been talking about this forever. I love it how every time Utah looks bad in short yardage situations that people act surprised, and it's like they've been bad at that for decades.
Yeah, that is the thing.
Forever.
I read a lot of people saying, "Oh, they're bad in the red zone." It's like, no, they're bad in short yardage situations.
Short yardage,
because they were awful at Oklahoma State on 3rd and 3 or less. Where they just kept giving the ball to Mike Mitchell and running right up the gut, and he got stopped every single time. It's like, well, maybe on the next drive we'll do a Mike Mitchell dive play and see if that works. It's like, no. It fails every time. It keeps failing. That's why you had a good 4th down percentage earlier in the season, because you kept having to go for it on 4th down because on 3rd and short, you weren't picking it up. And then it bit them in the butt against Arizona, where they couldn't move the ball on 3rd down or 4th down. And I really think the game is more about 2 or 3 individual plays than you would think in a 23-10 loss, which is pretty handy. They got handled pretty well by Arizona. It is what happened on those first 2 drives in the red zone where they weren't able to get into the end zone. Should they have just kicked field goals? Probably. In retrospect, that's easy to see. I understand why they didn't want to, or why they did want to put themselves in a spot where they were playing from ahead as opposed to playing from behind, because, as they said maybe 30 or 40 times on the broadcast, Utah is not equipped right now as a football team to play from behind.
Ever.
But
a football team to play from behind.
But, man, they didn't involve Mekhi Bernard nearly enough after he'd been really dominant for the last 2 weeks. It seems like they've given up on Mike Mitchell. He only had 3 carries. I get why he has not been productive when he's had the ball in his hands. And then Isaac Wilson, who made the couple of plays he needed to make on the road at Oklahoma State, did not make them. And that's the danger of having a true freshman quarterback. You're asking him to make big plays in a big game. Noah Fafita's good enough to do it, and right now Isaac Wilson's not.
Which is totally predictable, and we can get to the quarterback thing in a second. I put a lot of that. I don't think the line is really built to be very good in short yardage situations. I have no idea why they only gave Bernard the ball 16 times. Well, I do have an idea, and I can get to that in a second. But only 29 rushes for a Utah team in this situation is very uncharacteristic.
Yeah.
I know they were behind. But, Ben, what was our take with Isaac Wilson going into the Utah State game? Well, he might not throw the ball the whole game.
Yeah.
Because they'll just hand it off all the time. Bernard, we kept watching his carries. That's been a thing on this show, watching his carries. Can he be the guy who gets the ball 25 times? And against Oklahoma State, Ben, remember the carries? What did he get the ball?
25.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yes, amazing. 16, and he's still, 91 yards. He's near 6 yards a crack. So
Yeah, he
it's
was
not
good.
like he was playing poorly.
He was good.
So to go away from that, I think might have been a game plan problem, honestly.
Yeah.
Because they were chasing it, but they weren't chasing it that much. That was a way closer game than their game plan would indicate. Because Isaac Wilson, Ben, his attempts, the number?
40.
40. 4-0.
Yep.
True freshman, go sling it 40 times? You're going to lose that game.
Yep, you are.
You're going to lose that game.
And when the main issue was that Arizona knew Utah had to throw the ball to try and play catch-up, and they just said, okay, we're just going to tee off on him because he doesn't recognize where the blitzes are coming from, and he can't take advantage of one-on-one coverage right now, of man coverage. He's just not going to – he's not experienced enough yet to punish you for leaving their corners on an island. Now, credit their corners. They were very good in this game, and that made it easier to really heat up the pressure and bring it to Isaac Wilson. But he missed some of those throws. He threw behind guys, which did allow for so many pass breakups. But, yeah, they just recognize he's not ready to deal with that pressure right now. So as long as he's standing back there, knowing in obvious passing situations, they were going to light him up, and they did.
And they didn't have to do that. That's the thing.
Yeah, right, they didn't.
They didn't have to do that.
I'm with
They
you.
could have run the ball a bunch to take the pressure off, because why would there – I don't know if there's been a true – maybe Johnny Manziel, wasn't he a true freshman? I don't know if there's been a true freshman in college football that you can hand the ball off to and say, hey, we're going to go – you got to throw us back into that game. That's not going to happen, and they weren't down that much. What were they down? 16-3 most of the game?
Yeah. But even in the fourth quarter, it was a one-score game.
You're not down that much.
No.
Yeah, you're really not. And the defense was good. And I know they gave up that drive in the fourth quarter that pretty much sealed the deal. So they weren't perfect, but the defense was really good. Was doing fine. Why is the true freshman throwing the ball 40 times? That's not going to win.
No, Utah.
And to totally get stonewalled by a softy cakes Arizona defense is pretty inexcusable in and of itself. But I don't know. Wilson's like 12th on the list of people who should draw blame. And you know what? As a result, Cam Rising shouldn't be that high on the list either. That's not the reason. I mean, I would put the offensive coaches way higher on that list. Way higher on that list. I'd put Coach Witt higher on that list. I mean, he's the head guy responsible for it all.
Utah got outcoached. They got out-talented.
Yeah.
They got outplayed.
Right.
They outthought themselves.
The line should be rolling over the Softy Cats on every play. Every single play.
No, going for it.
And they didn't. So I'm not putting it on either of the quarterbacks.
Going for it twice on those first two drives and not getting it just absolutely allowed Arizona to believe in itself in a way it never should have. And then all of a sudden you were playing from behind because Arizona scores early, even though it was only a field goal. You're playing from behind, and they're just got this sudden urgency that everybody felt watching the game at the stadium. Utah's coaching staff clearly felt it because they did start throwing the ball a lot. They started to feel the heat. They started to feel the pressure. And I think they didn't beat themselves. Arizona beat Utah. But, man, Utah really outthought the game plan, in my opinion. It was bad. It was a bad performance.
I mean, people forget about Andy Ludwig when he was here the first time. That was the complaint about him the first time, that he overthought things and was really terrible in short yardage.
Yeah.
Do you remember, most people probably don't, but why Eric Weddle was a two-way player when he was a senior is because they kept getting stoned at the goal line and had no answer.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, why don't we put our best player in at Wildcat? Yeah. And then all of a sudden a star is born, and he's playing offense more and more. But it was born out of we just keep getting creamed.
You can run
fourth and short.
You can run outside the tackles, right? You don't have to just go right up the middle every time, do you?
You do not.
You can go outside.
It is a thing.
Okay.
Now, my theory on that, honestly, and then we can move on. But my theory on that is the zone read is not built for short yardage. That's not kind of its strength because you block different in the zone read. It's a different blocking scheme, and it's not line up and run over the guy in front of me. That's not the objective. It's like a different technique, and it just doesn't work as well in short yardage. And the fake handoff with the quarterback takes time to go, and you need plays that fire. You know, there's a reason the QB sneak is snap it and go. I mean, because you want as least amount of impact as possible from who wins the push up front. And if you're doing some sort of fake handoff, some play action, you know, you leave time for the line to bend. It's just not built for what we're talking about.
But you don't have jet sweeps for Dijon Stanley or Money Parks or anything like that where you're like, hey, these guys, I think I can beat you to the edge.
But the
and I
problem
can pick up 3 yards.
Is if you get run over at the line, all that stuff is a waste of time.
If you're going up the middle and you're getting jammed every time,
but
too.
That's my point. Is it's
if it's a moot point because you're going to get beat at the line of scrimmage, I get what you're saying.
Money Parks isn't going to make it around the line.
Then you can't be getting beat at the line of scrimmage that badly by Arizona.
But they get beat at the line of scrimmage all the time in those situations. I'm trying to let them off the hook a little bit by saying, like, it's not really a scheme meant for that, but it doesn't excuse the failure, I suppose.
With all that said, I know technically they don't because they don't play Arizona or Kansas State, and if those two teams win out, they'll be in the Big 12 championship. But Utah still controls their own destiny. Yeah, win out. Beat BYU. You'll be fine. Utah needed to be 4-1 going into the bye week. They are.
I think you should be really concerned about a couple of teams on their schedule, BYU being one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you win out and you fix this and Cam Rising comes back healthy and is ready to go, I still think Utah is as good as anybody in the Pac-12 when they're healthy.
Next.
Woke up to a bunch of new news in college football realignment.
And some college basketball, really. Not all of it college football. I guess the biggest story is Gonzaga is joining the Pac-12.
That is college basketball.
And that has nothing to do with football at all.
I don't really understand that move, honestly.
I think the Pac-12 needs to solidify itself in any way possible. And the best school remaining out there, the best asset was Gonzaga basketball. There's not a good football program that wants to join the Pac-12. There's not a good one that wants to join the Mountain West Conference. They can't be offering a whole lot.
I don't know. I find it hard to believe that the best asset out there was Gonzaga basketball.
But it's perennially a top 10 program.
It doesn't matter.
If not top 5.
What sport are we talking about?
Sure, but
then it doesn't matter. And it doesn't help them get to 8, which is what they have to do. So they're really just giving Gonzaga money for fun, and it doesn't make any sense, honestly.
I'm not sure that's true because I don't know how much money the Pac-12 in this current iteration is actually going to be bringing in from a TV deal. So maybe the shares that Gonzaga will generate by winning a bunch of games in the conference tournament will pay for itself.
Counterbalance it.
Will pay for itself, but yeah, clearly there's just not good football programs out there that are going to move the needle. I mean, getting a bottom 40 college football program to jump up or getting an FCS team to jump up and join the Pac-12, which seems potentially realistic at this point, doesn't move the needle. And that really is just cutting into the pie to give out because they're not going to generate any money anyways.
I don't know, maybe find some California schools. I mean, like, can you talk San Jose State and Nevada into it, for example? I mean, I'd actually keep picking at the Mountain West.
I think so, too, but they've signed this grant of rights deal. At least they've agreed to this deal that they're going to stick together through 2032.
Does Gloria have the votes? I mean, if she does, then you might be in real trouble. I don't know where they go. Should have thought about that.
We had Bill Oram on while you were gone on Thursday.
Nice.
And because, he's up in Oregon and he was talking about it. And I think he was great. Right. The first step of their execution was great. They went out and they got the 4 best teams out of the Mountain West Conference. And then step 2, it's like they hadn't thought about it.
Well, I think they maybe thought they had more leverage than they did.
Or assumed it would be easy, and it wasn't.
If they would have just submarined the Mountain West on day 1 as opposed to messing around.
Correct.
Then they'd be in a different situation. Because Utah State obviously would have come, no problem.
Day 1,
They would have had to get one more day 1. And if UNLV really was on the fence, timing then was a factor there.
But they did allow the Mountain West Conference to
exist.
Basically have a night to figure it out. And they did.
Yep. So that was a mistake. When you play the Game of Thrones, Ben, you either win or you die.
Yeah. You better have a true red wedding. You can't let it linger. And that's what they did.
It's one of the great lines in television. It really applies to so many things. I think you replaced a dead band, didn't you?
Yeah.
Once in your career?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. That's not a legit question. All right, don't miss your chance to win a win big. Thank you. Every week.
Win a big wig.
On the KSL Sports Zone this week on Win Ticket Wednesday, you can win a pair of tickets to go see Breaking Benjamin at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on October the 5th. Listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day on Wednesday for your chance to win. We'll have more for you coming up next. Big 12 Power Poll at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake and Ben, this segment brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255. Also, the Hercules Hero of the Week. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest. Listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Ben, it is also a Tuesday. And what do we do on Tuesdays?
We eat tacos on Tuesdays.
We do indeed. Win lunch. It's a Taco Tuesday from the KSL Sports Zone at Cafe Rio. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. You're getting a $20 Cafe Rio gift card. Gift card will be mailed to the winner after you complete that winner form. So be caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. And you're going to Cafe Rio. Tacos sound good. Our tacos really, one of those kind of can't miss kind of thing. I always say if you don't know what to get get a club sandwich because you know it's going to be tasty.
Yeah.
If you get tacos in pretty much any iteration, odds are it's going to be a tasty meal.
Yeah, as long as it's
not
not your silly ground beef tacos that you make at home.
Even those I love.
They're fine.
They're
But yeah,
delicious.
let's say usually pretty safe to get some tacos. Hey, one thing we haven't talked about, and it happened Friday night. It was pretty stunning. Karl Anthony Towns traded to the New York Knicks. This was a stunner. When the modern NBA landscape is supposed to make it basically impossible for teams over the salary cap to make trades. Cat is one of the players we've talked about a lot. You like to make fun of the Knicks quite a bit.
I do.
Did you have takeaways from this trade? I know you were on vacation, but it's Karl Anthony Towns to the Knicks, Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They also get a future Detroit Pistons pick, which probably be
pretty good.
Pretty good. Not like a top 5 pick ever, I don't think. I think the Pistons are going to finish outside the top 10 in the next couple of years, and it will convey. And so you're probably getting a mid-lottery pick, which is not bad for Minnesota, considering they had no draft picks after making the Rudy Gobert deal.
I think it's funny. Did Tom Thibodeau, whatever his name is, get amnesia?
Because he has coached Cat before.
He has coached Karl Anthony Towns before. And remind me how that went.
Well, he got fired.
It wasn't good.
Yeah.
And Cat didn't really, develop, I would say, considering he was a number 1 pick. And Cat's the biggest problem, if you'll remember, Cat's mentality did not match that of Tom Thibodeau, who wants you to play hard for 43 minutes a game.
Yeah, right.
And that didn't really, it didn't really work all that well. So I'm a little surprised from that standpoint. I totally get it with the Timberwolves that they needed a reshuffle, and since they're so far over, there's not really much they could do to reshuffle. See kind of how the Jazz were with Donovan and Rudy.
Yeah.
And their one piece that they could use to reshuffle was Karl Anthony Towns. And I think they can make up for his production in other ways and maybe adding a player that's a little bit tougher. I don't like Julius Randle's game that much in the modern NBA, so that'll be interesting to see how it fits. But Minnesota had to do something.
I heard a good comp for Julius Randle that he is a basement raiser. He's not a ceiling raiser. So if you're like a 23-win team and you add Julius Randle, you probably get up to 30 wins because he's just like an offense in his own. He's almost like Al Jefferson a little bit in that sense. Like you just give him the ball a bunch and he makes stuff happen.
He'll produce.
But he doesn't take you from 50 wins to 60 wins or 50 wins to 55 wins. So in that sense, I think he actually lowers Minnesota's ceiling a little bit. Now they're betting on Naz Reid coming off the bench to kind of be that floor spacing big man to fit next to Rudy Gobert because Rudy and Julius Randle don't fit at all. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, that is like having Al Jefferson and Rudy
From
Gobert
a
next to each
spacing
other.
standpoint, it doesn't. Yeah.
And the modern NBA is all about floor spacing. So in that sense, I say, well, the Knicks got a 7-foot-tall shooter, and it really worked for Boston, getting Kristaps Porzingis to push them over the top. But Kristaps Porzingis is at least a shot blocker, and he's not a good defensive player, but he does protect the rim. You don't get any rim protection from Cat. He is a historically bad defensive player, even if he's tall. So everything the Knicks do on the perimeter, which I really like with Mikal Bridges and with Josh Hart and with OG Anunoby as far as defense goes, is totally evaporated because as soon as you get to the rim, it's easy to get layups. And by the way, Jalen Brunson's also a terrible defensive player. So now you have two major negative defensive players at arguably the most important spots. Definitely one of them is the most important spot, which is protecting the rim. So while I like the idea of spacing the floor, I kind of think both of these teams might have gotten worse.
Okay, we'll see how that plays out. I don't think Minnesota gets that much worse without Karl Anthony Towns. Their ceiling, I don't think went down that much if they traded Karl Anthony Towns for some donuts and a radio announcer.
Sure. Okay. He really does add to their spacing. Now, I had always thought,
he does, but you can do that. You can get that other places.
If Naz Reid can really shoot. My argument was always like, why didn't they go find like Bojan Bogdanovic, who spaces the floor fine next to Rudy too and is the same defensive player? But fine, you don't provide any rim protection. That's not what Bojan's job ever was, but at least he tries on the perimeter.
But every time Karl Anthony Towns had the ball, Anthony Edwards didn't. Correct. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I do.
So, I don't know. Yeah, maybe it doesn't work with Randall, but it wasn't working with Karl Anthony Towns.
I don't know if they were going to get past the Western Conference Finals with Cat.
Right.
I agree with you. Now, I do think that identity was their strength, was these two bigs plus Ant, and they don't have that anymore. So it's going to take some good coaching from Chris Finch to figure out that spacing. I think that's going to be difficult.
And bringing up a good point about Naz Reid, I do like him.
I like him quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah. All right, stay tuned. Big 12 Power Poll coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.